Been talking all Arizona football. We are going to talk some Arizona basketball here. We've got a lot of Arizona basketball to get to, what potential rosters could look like, where this team could be. Let's get started here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, this is the time of the year where we're going to start having some movement here. We're going to start having some roster movement. So, with that in mind, we need to talk about the roles of each player coming back now that we know who's coming back and what their expectations can be. So therefore, we can fit that into what this roster is going to look like. Now, the first guy that we need to talk about here, because he's probably the most important guy on the team, is Kylan Boswell. Kylan Boswell is, right now, he is the guy that I think Arizona needs to have be the best player on the team. And not only that, I think that he needs to be the type of guy who, he facilitates for others, but at the same time, not only does he facilitate for others, he also has the ability to be able to get in the lane, and not only get in the lane, but also be able to score from three and play dogged defense. I think that he's shown that he can do all of those things right there. Now you just got to be able to do it, and I think he's a next-level passer. Now you watch him, and there's a couple things that are fascinating about it. First, he came in and he wasn't exactly shooting great to start the season, but after a while, that started to change to a certain extent. And by the end of the year, heck, you could make the case that he was the best shooter on the team. That's what was impressive about what he was able to do. Now, the other thing that you also got to look at is what can he bring to you defensively? Defensively, there's no reason that he shouldn't be able to be a next level defender, because he's pretty instinctive. He's able to anticipate stuff, and on top of that, looks like he embraces it. And that's the thing that you need first and foremost, is you need a defensive player that embraces the defensive grind of the game, because again, a lot of people don't embrace the defensive grind. You need that out there. You need that from Arizona. But again, you need Kylan Boswell to be the best player on this team, in my opinion. He's got to be the dude who, and again, we're going to talk about newcomers, but returning players, you need him to be all conference. Now, again, Umar Ballo was all conference last year. Totally get that. Totally appreciate that. Understand everything. Big tip of the cap to Big Umar right there. But I also don't know that Umar has the kind of upside that Kylan Boswell has. Kylan Boswell has next level upside to him. And that's where I think if you're Arizona, you need him to be able to be that guy. I mean, quite frankly, you need him to be able to be that guy. And I don't think that there's anything unreal about that. I also think that it's also going to be good for him. I think it's going to be good for him to be able to go into the season knowing that, hey, my role is about to shoot up exponentially. And not only is it going to shoot up exponentially, it's going to be at the stage where, yes, it's going to be good, but yes, I need to be an all-conference guy, and to be an all-conference guy, that's what you're going to need. I think statistically, you can ask for and legitimately get 15, 5, 2, and good defense out of him, and that's what I think that you should hope for out of Kylan Boswell. Now, then it's a couple of the other positions. I mentioned Umar Ballo. We're going to talk about Umar Ballo again here. Umar is an interesting guy because, first of all, I was wrong on Umar from day one. I thought Umar, when he came in, would be kind of roster filler. As I've said many times on this show, I didn't see him really being a player who was going to be able to make a significant impact, let alone be an all-conference guy. And he's proven to be an all-conference type dude. And again, I don't even need to say type. He's done it. I mean, he put up 15-7 this past year, give or take a little bit. And not only did he put up 15-7, he was at the stage where when he needed to, especially earlier in the year, he was able to dominate some games, and he did that out in Maui. Again, remember back in Maui, this was the guy who was the tournament MVP, and he was dominating. Now, what can that next step be? Well, he can always get into better shape. I don't think that I'm breaking any news there. He's still got a little bit of baby fat on him. He can continue to get into better shape. I don't see that as being a problem. I don't see that being a problem at all for him, to be honest with you. But on top of that, what can he do? Because if he gets into better shape, I think his quick twitch muscles get better, and that's something that he's going to need. I think there's a world of potential for him right there at that spot. And not only that, when we're talking about all conference dudes, you would expect him to be that guy again. Now, maybe you can lean up a little bit, maybe more into that, maybe get a little stronger, get a little leaner, somewhere in that 8, I don't know, maybe lose a few pounds, and maybe you can get up to 17-8. Again, I don't see any reason why, and I've been saying this from day one, I don't see any reason why he can't be 17-8, because the jump that he made from this year to last year, yes, but there's also some things that he could get much, much better at that he still struggles with. And not only does he still struggle with, there are things that I think you look at and you're like, all right, well, you can get a little bit better here. Not only can you get a little bit better, you can get a little bit better in the you can get better as far as defensively as well, because there were times too when he would just commit some silly fouls and you're like, dude, Umar, what are you doing out there? So again, that's going to be the next step for Umar Ballo, in my opinion. That next step is going to be, where can you improve the most? And again, 17-8. I don't know that with his body, because again, he's always going to be kind of slow twitch, and that's not really a slight towards him, but he's always going to be kind of a slow twitch type dude. What can the next level though be for him? And I believe that that's 17-8 right there, and I expect it to be 17-8 this coming season. I think that is well within reach of him, and if that happens, and if Kylan Boswell does what he's capable of doing, then you're pretty much at the you know that you got 2 all-conference guys, and then it becomes pretty easy to build around right there. If you know that you've got 2 all-conference guys, that's a nice little thing to have right there. And then now you're going to be dealing with some guys that have a little bit. Actually, you got Pelle Larsson first. We have to talk about Pelle. My bad, Pelle. When Pelle Larsson first got here, I thought he sucked. I didn't think he was very good. And then he slowly started to grow on me this past year. And Tommy Lloyd hasn't done this much, but he definitely did this past year. He oversold him a little bit. He just did. He's Pelle Larsson's not really an All-American type, All-Conference defensive player of the year type guy. That's just not exactly how he's wired. But he's very, very good. The thing about him, though, that will always limit him to a certain degree, and this is always going to be somewhat of the case, is that he's going to always be somewhat limited because he can't dribble. And when you can't dribble at the highest level of basketball, that's going to limit you to a certain degree, and that is certainly the case, I think, with Pelle Larsson. But that doesn't mean that he can't do a lot of really good things for you. Defensively, he plays very good, or defensively, he's very good. Now, he's not probably the lockdown type guy that I think a lot of people would like him to be, but he's right to it. He's right next to it, and that is a good thing. He can really finish when he's driving to the hoop. When he's cutting to the basket, he's pretty darn good in that area as well. So, again, there's a lot to like when it comes to that. Now, But so again, from a statistical perspective for Pelle Larsson, I think it's fair to say that, you know what, I want from Pelle Larsson, I need 14 points, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and play really good defense. And I think he's more than capable of doing all of that stuff. I just don't want him dribbling the ball a ton, because when he dribbles the ball a ton, that's when it becomes an issue for Arizona, because generally the ball gets stolen at that point, and that's not something that you want, obviously, to have happen. I don't know if he's the starter. I don't know what exactly his position is, but he's going to play 30 minutes a game. And that's something that's obviously easy to be able to sell people on, is that, yes, you know what? We still got another wing spot here where you can play 30 minutes per game and not have to worry about anything. But Pelle's right in there again. Pelle's a good player, not a great player, but Pelle's definitely a good player. Now, let's talk a little bit more about some of the returning bigs then. Start with Henri Veesaar. Now, Henri, I think, is the epitome of situation where you got to be able to, see an international player first before before passing all of the judgment on him. Now, when it comes to Henry's got some things that you can't teach. First of all, he's every bit of 7 foot. He's probably got about a 7'5" wingspan. He's very long, and he has natural shot blocking abilities. I know we haven't said it, but we haven't seen this in games, but he's actually not a bad shooter. I know a lot of people roll their eyes at that one, but you got to trust me on this one. He's not a bad shooter. So he's got that going for him. But there were, as the season went on, he started to clearly struggle with some confidence issues, and that's something that they got to rectify. Now, the great thing about it, though, is that when that Arizona's going to have a lot of time, and he's going to be counted on this coming year. So I think another year in the program, another year getting stronger, another year working out, you're kind of at that stage now where you're, where, you know what, you can do some things. I would like him to average somewhere around 10, 6, and a block and a half. Again, I think he's going to be a 3 or 4 year guy. I think some of the expectations were probably a little bit outlandish, but again, that's because of some of the European scouting departments there. He's not the type of dude that I think a lot of people were hoping that he would be, as far as kind of that one and done type. But again, I think that he can be 9-5, 10-5, and I don't see any reason why he can't be 10-5. So again, we'll check that out. Now, when it comes to the rest of this roster, then we're going to talk about that. But first, let's talk about FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook, FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege. All right, here's the great thing about FanDuel and why everybody's using it. It's because, first of all, you put your money in there and you know that it's going to be good. That is a good thing. Obviously, when you're dealing with FanDuel and when you're dealing with money, nobody wants to question, where exactly is my money? Is it good? Is it not? And this is the time of the year too, where Arizona, this is the time of the year too, where you want to bet on games, because again, baseball is not going to, baseball doesn't do a ton for me, but you know what does do a ton for me? Betting on games right there when that I have no interest in. That's where baseball is fun. Now, the best thing about baseball is FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook. Again, check it out, FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with you. We're going to talk more about the returning players. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, one thing about this, this team is you got a lot of guys that need to be able to step up, but you also have a lot of question marks here. And the first thing is Dylan Anderson, my guy. A lot of people think that Dylan Anderson, can't play. They're wrong. Dylan Anderson can't play. I like Dylan Anderson a great deal. He's big, he's physical, and you know what? He's taken a lot of the training, and he's taken a lot of the coach's words, and he's taken them at face value, and he's worked on his game, and that's what you really like about what Dylan Anderson's been able to do. Now the next stage is getting more confident with the ball, taking more time when he's making his moves, and if that happens, then you're really looking at somebody good, because again, Dylan Anderson is a good basketball player. He's just got to be able to continue to work in such a way that he can continue to do that. Now, I think when it comes to the U of A next year, I'd like him to be somewhere like 6-4-1. Because again, I think he can have a natural progression here where he gets, about a couple minutes this year. I think he could be a 14, 15, 16-minute per game guy, and then you just keep evolving right there. That's what I would like to see out of Dylan Anderson. Now, another guy one guy that I know absolutely nothing about, and I have no expectations because I can't sit here and tell you what he's going to do because I have no idea, is Philly B, Filip Borovichinen. You look at Philly B, he's a pretty big dude. He's pretty well put together. A lot of times these guys come in and they're built kind of like a pencil, and you got to really bulk them up. Philly B's already got a pretty good frame to him already. And not only does he have a pretty good frame to him, he's got a pretty good understanding of the game. My question just will always be, where is he going to be physically? And what I mean by physically is he going to be able to be a good enough athlete that, or skilled enough to maybe overcome some of the slow twitch issues that he might have from an athleticism perspective? That's what I'm curious about with Philly B. But again, I can't even begin to give you any expectations on Philly B or what I'd like to see out of Philly B next year, because I don't have any idea what to expect from Philly B. And I think that's something that, anybody that's telling you they know what to expect, I think is probably wrong. Now, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to break down one guy that we know is coming here because he is already signed. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk about KJ Lewis. I think KJ Lewis is dramatically underrated in the grand scheme of things. You watch him, he's about 6'4", 215 pounds, something like that. And not only, but he's a very, very good athlete. Now, again, he's probably not as skilled as some people might say, but I think that the potential is there to be good. I think that he's going to force his way onto the court immediately. I think that he's probably going to play something like, I don't know. I think he's going to play something like 15 minutes per game because I think his athleticism is going to be sorely needed. And I think defensively, he's going to embrace that grind. So again, like a lot of what I see out of KJ Lewis, I think he's a 2 or 3 year player. I do believe that he's an NBA guy. I also think that he's a little bit underrated here. And he's somebody too that Arizona hasn't had a ton of, which I think we need to look at and say, all right, yeah, it's not ideal that you don't have a ton of those guys, but here's the first dude. So again, you got him, then you got Jamari Phillips coming in the following year. There's a lot to like about all of that. But KJ Lewis is somebody that I think athletically is on a little bit of a different plateau than the rest of the guys on this roster. And I think you're going to see him used accordingly, probably in a defensive role, but I don't know exactly where it is, but it should be interesting either way. Okay, now, we're going to talk a lot more about roster additions, obviously, in the next couple days. This team's still going to be a top 25 team this coming year, no matter what happens. And it's got the potential to be much, much higher than that. We're going to continue to look at that on the other side. But as always, really appreciate all of you. And again, we're here every single day. We will be back with you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Back the A. You've been listening to the Locked On Wildcats podcast.